You are watching the Fayetteville Government Channel. Up next, full coverage of the latest meeting of the Telecommunications Board. The Telecommunications Board is composed of citizen volunteers and meets on the third Thursday of each month. This board advises the City Council regarding telecommunications issues and assists city staff with the administration of the city's public access, education, and government television channels. And now, the Telecommunications Board.
I'll call the January 19th, 2012 meeting of the Telecommunications Board to order. Do the roll call. Pennington is here. Mr. Smith? Here. Mr. Ehrig? Here. Mr. Goggins, the new member of the board, had a trip that he scheduled before being appointed to the board, so we'll miss him this month. Hope he can join us next month. Shepard, not here yet. Mr. Spearman? Here. Mr. Spencer's not here yet, but told me he'd be on his way. Next is approval of the December meeting minutes. So moved. The motion to approve by Mr. Smith, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or any changes? If not, all those in favor of approval of the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Say aye.
Didn't call. Who's got extra?
There's an extra down there.
Oh.
Would note that Mr. Shepard has joined us.
Drove from the catfish hole in 7 minutes.
Oh,
Wow. Next item on the agenda is approval of the January meeting agenda. Any motions with respect to the agenda? Changes, additions, subtractions? We've entertained a motion to approve. There's a second?
Second.
On the motion by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Spearman, all those in favor of approval of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. The ayes have it. We'll move into number 5, reports. First by the Television Center Manager, Mr. Giesler.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. January 2012, first meeting of the year at Telecommunications Board. We're excited to be looking forward to a great 2012 going forward. The first item I want to bring up as just to recognize that on first recognize that Mr. Spencer.
Oh, Mr. Spencer has joined us.
The first item I'd like to recognize tonight is that on Tuesday the 17th, the City Council unanimously approved this Telecommunications Board's recommendations for revisions to the Telecommunications Board ordinance that outlines the duties and responsibilities of this board. And as soon as it gets registered with the City Clerk, I'll distribute a copy of the revised City Code to all the members of the board.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Smith.
First of all, I'd like to recognize the chair's outstanding presentation to the City Council. His persuasive powers that brought in an 8-0 vote on that.
Here, here.
Second, I'd like to ask the television station manager a question. During the testimony to the City Council, Marvin Hilton said that you had told him that city offices had access to streaming video of meetings and other things that no one else had access to.
I welcome an opportunity to clarify that. We have internally in the city it's called a web streaming server, a video streaming server. And we have one hooked up to a feed in the television center that then, if you are logged into the city's network, the internal network, you can access that. We can feed any signal that we have at the television center into that server. It could be a live feed from the channel. It could be a feed from a graphics computer. Anything we have there, we can feed in there. That is available. It's available as an internal communications tool for the city offices, so we can actually stream something separately to them that might not be going over the channel. To be able to provide some internal communication capability separate from the channel itself. There was a point brought up in that situation where it was the question was asked, well, why can't we make this public? Well, we do make the channel public, streamed 24/7 on the internet. And that's all the programming that's on the government channel itself. We also have just recently, in the last week or so, we've finally been able to establish the same thing for the public access channel. As has been said, that was turned off for a while, but we were able to find a way to reinstate that. So that has been reinstated. The reason we, at this point in time, don't have the capability of streaming, for example, a meeting that's occurring in this room to the public is because of technology capacity. A web server that's going to stream a video signal has to have enough capacity to have a certain number of users log into it at one time. And a video and audio stream takes a lot of bandwidth. It takes a lot of capacity for the internet. If we try to host those things here at the city, using the city's infrastructure, it would basically crash the city's network because we don't have enough internet connectivity. The pipe that the city has to the internet is not big enough to have more than maybe 2 or 3 people log into a server like that and be streaming that much data at one time. That's why we, with the city, with the government channel, that's why we contract with the company called Granicus to stream the government channel, because what that does is that allows as many users as want to connect to that video and audio stream at one time and not have any degradation in signal and not cause any problems with network traffic for the city itself. If sometime in the future we want to be able to establish something like being able to stream on the internet any one of the rooms, like a meeting like we're having right now, we can do that. It's just going to be a budgetary issue that the city council would have to look at and to provide the money to improve the technology or to acquire the service to do that.
Okay, but as I understand what you're saying, there's nothing available to city offices that isn't also available to the public, just not necessarily at the same time.
That's correct.
Right.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, good, because the implication was otherwise.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, now, you did mention the council's agenda session in this room. It's streamed live, isn't it?
It's not only streamed live, it's telecast on the government channel live.
Yeah.
So it's that happens at the same time. And again, all of the meetings that we record and telecast on the government channel are also put on our video on demand service. So they're available 24/7. Nobody has to actually tune into the government channel. They're available worldwide through our video on demand service as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt your presentation.
That's no problem. The Fayetteville Public Schools Education Channel representatives will be prepared to provide their report in February, their year-end report in February. A lot of stuff going on at the school, and excuse me, they just weren't able to put that together in time for this meeting. So Ms. Norton assured me that they'll have a report in February. We're waiting at this point in time for the mayor's approval on an agreement with Tribune Media Services that will allow us to put specific detailed information on each program on the cable company's on-screen programming guide. Right now, when you push the guide button, if you're a Cox subscriber and you have what they call their advanced TV package where they have the on-screen programming guide, if you push the guide button and bring that up and you go to channel 216, it just says government television or local government information on the program guide. We have this agreement will allow us to, anybody that has that service through Cox, to bring that up and see that then it will say 8 p.m. or 6 p.m. if you're whatever particular day you're on, it'll tell you exactly what's coming up. So it will specifically say city council meeting or telecommunications board meeting or something like that. And it's paperwork that we're just working on getting through the mayor's office, and when that's done, we'll be able to turn that on. So
That's great.
And then one of the things that I've been talking to Ms. Shelley about, and we're looking at going forward, into 2012 is we're doing some continuing to do some changes and enhancing the space utilization at the television center. And part of what we want to do with that going forward into the next year is reconfigure the control room area, which right now is used in a variety of, it's a big room that has a lot of stuff, different things going on in it. None of them are necessarily compatible. So very simply what we can do to reconfigure some of this is to take some of the storage that's in there and move it to a different place and build a couple of walls, ask building services to build a couple of walls for us and reconfigure that space, just like we've done in some other areas of the television center, make it more user-friendly and make it more efficient use of space. To that end, what you'll probably see going forward, as you've been in the control room, you've seen that there are a lot of shelves in there that are used to store videotapes and things. What we've done is, I told you earlier, we've completed the archive process for the government channel. Every video program at the government channel that's in the archive is now off of videotape and is now on DVD. That reduces our storage needs tremendously, and it also makes it more flexible in how we can store things and such. We're starting to work on the archives for the public access channel that are pretty extensive, and we're very committed to maintaining and preserving those archives. Those are a unique history of the culture of the city of Fayetteville reflected in those programs and such. We're going to find a better place to store them, but because they're stored in the control room area right now, we're going to find a more amenable place for them to be so we can make these changes in the control room area, these space changes. We're going to find a better place for those tapes to be and still have access to them. We're not going to put them somewhere where nobody will have access to them. They will be accessible. But to that end, there are lots and lots of programs in that archive that were not produced by residents of Fayetteville. They're what we commonly refer to as imported programs. And some of them are things like jazz cardio strength stretch and
which we'll be doing later today.
Unarius video productions. We wanted to bring it to this board to consider just to think about, discuss whether you make a decision tonight or in terms of giving us advice and how to move forward on this. But these programs are not owned by the city. Actually, no program that's in that archive is owned by the city except Short Takes. The only programs that the producers own their programs. We have the media that they're on, but the program itself is not owned by the city. So the question becomes, do we take the time and the expense and the effort to archive a program that was not produced by someone here in Fayetteville, that was really not part of the cultural fabric of Fayetteville? It just happened to be telecast on the channel at some time in the distant past, in the past 20 years. Do we take the time and the expense and the space to archive that kind of program, like yoga with Andrea, or jazz cardio stretch, or a Unarius video, video productions? We would like to present that to you as a board to give us some advice on as to what we might want to do going forward with that.
So the people bring these in to have them cable cast, but they don't pick them up, is that?
Yeah, that's correct. They just stay there.
And are they available online anywhere? I mean, not through the city services, but since...
Oh, I'm sure they are. Yeah, we could find, many of these organizations have their own websites and their own, capabilities of providing it.
So if there was a request, I mean...
Yeah, a local resident has to request them, a Fayetteville resident, and they have to show that they have the distribution rights for it to telecast, for them to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And then we telecast it. So it's called an import program across many different topics. It's obviously a topic that's important to that Fayetteville resident. Most of which they get sent to them in the mail, and they just leave with us. So they do take up quite a bit of space, and you'll see in my report later the number of new import programs versus new local programs is pretty even. So they are about half of our library right now is import programs.
How far back do they go?
A bazillion years. A long time. Back to VHS times.
Huh.
Way past, back
Yeah.
1992 at least, is because that's when that was established.
One thing you might consider is, I mean, for future purposes, is actually pick them up, or so you're only going to
A lot of
store them
people
for
do.
30 days or something.
Right.
Rather than have to deal with the question.
And for the sake of your consideration, I did poll my staff today, and they're the ones who deal most with this, scheduling of them and archiving them, et cetera. And they didn't see any reason, because of the spirit of what we do at public access, any reason for us to keep those. And they do stay in the system for 3 months, so they're able to be repeated. As you see, we do have repeat imports. But like any other programming, if somebody wants to request an import repeat, they would have to provide that program and a form with it. So,
How do you keep them organized? Is it by name, by date?
the way I understand it, again, I'm not the one who did it, who does the scheduling, is that it's organized by when they were requested.
So you can tell that something hasn't been requested
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
from
Yes.
a year ago,
Right,
18 years ago.
right.
Okay.
We're still, excuse me, we're still maintaining the records of when they were telecast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I would imagine this one being on VHS was probably telecast several years ago, and maybe not since then. So from those kinds of things, I mean, this one says September 2010 on the program. The thing about these imported programs, or any of the programs in our archive for that matter, is because of copyright issues and because of intellectual property issues, we've taken a very strong stance that the person that owns that program is the person who has the right to say we can telecast it. Now, if that's a person that has gone through our educational stuff and they're using our equipment and they produce it there, we know who that is. One of the conditions of using the facility is that you produce a program and you allow us to telecast that program. That's the deal. And so from that perspective, the city has the distribution rights for those programs. These programs we don't, past the point that the particular person who brought it in to telecast it. So it's not like a situation where if it is older, right now, if it's older than January of 2011, nobody except the program owner themselves can go back in there, grab a program off the shelf and say, here, play this. Unless they want to go back and find the program's producer, the person who owns the rights to that program, and get their permission to do so. And we did that on purpose, and the reason we did that is we didn't want somebody somebody who did not want a program telecast or material telecast again that they produced. We didn't want that to happen. If they didn't want it done, then we should be able to respect that.
Well, I think it's essential that we maintain copies of everything that was produced by any member or rookie or whatever they're called, local production.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you make the argument, or is there an argument to be made on why we ought to keep these import programs? I can't see that reason, but I don't want to, if there is an argument on why we ought to keep all these and archive them.
Well, it's certainly an important issue to discuss, and that's why we thought the Telecom board should give their input, because we can't see one, and neither can our staff, but
Yeah.
you know, we're there every day, so we wanted to get a broader perspective from you all. And your input in this, I couldn't agree with you more. Fritz and I and our staffs all agree that it is sacred to keep the ones that are produced locally by both local producers, certified producers, and even outside producers who do local work and have it telecast.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
the import programs, I can't find a reason.
Can you keep it for a certain amount of time and just say, you know, if it's not requested again within X amount of time, we're going to get rid of it? I mean, what would be a fair amount of time
Well, according to Flint, who's our technical specialist who does this, they stay in the system anyway. So if someone would request it within a month or two, it would still be accessible just on our system to schedule. We wouldn't need to have the physical thing, the physical DVD with us.
Okay.
So, and some people do pick them up. They come back and get them. But historically, you can look and there's so many that are still just left on the shelves.
I have a question.
Mr. Eric?
Are we legally obligated to keep these?
No, not to my knowledge.
It's amount.
Mike?
Do citizens ever come in and request to see a copy of a program that aired in 1998 on this date?
Yes.
Like an import. So there may be some, you do get some requests like that now?
This is just my limited knowledge. When that does happen, it's almost always been it has always been a local program.
It's been a local program, yeah.
Richard Drake is a longtime producer who does that a lot. He will request one of his shows from the 90s, and we will pull it for him. But I'm not saying it's never happened, but I've not seen a request made for old import programs.
And most of these are mass produced, so someone could get them at the library or something if they wanted to know what was aired.
There would definitely be other opportunities to acquire that programming, sure.
Can you give them to the library?
I was gonna say, give them to the friends.
Well, I would say we would give them to somebody. We wouldn't just throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
We would no longer keep them.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
we
could always
would.
go check it out and bring it back over.
I can see this. What program?
I mean, if you give them to the friends of the library, they can either
They can
add
sell
them,
them.
add them to the
I
collection.
think that's a great
or
idea.
sell them.
Yeah.
Is that something we can do because it's on city, technically
No.
city property? Or
I don't see why not.
I think it's a great idea.
We took all of the videotapes from the government channel library and gave them to the special collections department at the university after we converted them to DVD.
But they can be sold? I mean,
If we donate them to the library,
oh,
what they don't use in their old books are constantly.
they would be
selling.
selling them?
Yeah.
Fundraising for the library.
Much easier.
Yeah.
But just the cases, you know how much you spend on cases for DVDs, and all you gotta do is pull that piece of paper out, turn it backwards and write on it what it says, put it back in there. And you got a good
Yeah.
high dollar case for your
Well, and
collection.
as every, as you can see, what we do, our new storage, the way we store DVDs now are in binders, and every page has actually, it's a binder that is a little bit bigger than 8.5 by 11, but every page has 8 DVDs, 4 on one side, 4 on the other, rather than, and we can put almost 100 DVDs in one binder that takes up 2.5 inches of shelf space. 100 of these would not only be this tall, but I mean, as you can see, these things take up a lot of space, and then a VHS tape is significantly more, right? So that's, space being in a premium, and we're always looking at how to maximize our resources. That's another issue of changing the way we store things, and that, this right here, just this amount of space right here is only 4 programs. So we did, and Ann is right. She said, we have our perspective. We couldn't come up with any reason not to, or any reason actually to hang on to these. However, we wanted to get a broader
Yeah, and
input.
I mean, I'd urge you to do that, but I also might have a policy when people bring them in, just tell them, we're only gonna keep them 90 days, you need to pick it up or whatever.
That's-
Is 3 months okay?
I think so.
30 days?
How about this to make it real simple? You brought it in, take it home.
Right.
That would be very simple.
Yeah. You gotta give them a little bit of time to,
Right.
Miss it. You gotta miss it first.
yeah.
Because you said it stays in the system for 3 months, essentially. Somebody could come back and.
Right, and there are, I would say that the folks who use the import service the most already pick theirs up and bring, every time they bring new ones. Those don't sit in our library. It's mostly the older ones that have just kind of languished there. So.
Yeah, you might run some kind of announcement on the channel that you're getting ready to divest of these, if anybody wants to come pick them up.
I like that.
Otherwise, they'll be donated.
Okay.
Happy to
So
do
you can just
that.
give notice before you.
Yeah.
give those important programs.
We'll have to, and we'll have to communicate that.
Somewhere, right?
We definitely have to communicate that in a way that it's clear that it's the imported programs only,
Right, not-
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a panic rush.
It'd be nice if y'all could just have a yard sale and get rid of them yourselves. Keep the
Yeah.
money.
Can't do that. That'd be great.
And in conjunction with that, as I was talking about, we're going to continue moving forward with conversion from videotape to DVD of the public access archives. However, that is a fairly expensive and extensive project. So as that goes forward, we'll keep you updated on the progress of that, but we're going to have to really keep an eye on our budget in terms of materials and things to make sure that we just do that in a fiscally responsible way, because it's staff time and materials and such. And from that perspective, or from the perspective of just the quarterly report, I think that's all I have on my list. I'm going to, my year-end report for 2011 is under new business. So, any other questions?
Well, then we'll move to the public access quarterly report.
The quarterly report is included in the annual report, so I will give all of that at the end. I will say, just as a couple of quick updates since this report was done, I met this week with the communications director at Mount Sequoia regarding some things that community access television, Fayetteville Public Access Television can do for nonprofits, and we've crafted a letter that we'll be sending to nonprofits regarding that very thing as soon as we get our new brochure. So that, in addition, that's one thing on Fayetteville Public Access Television side. Regarding the new brochure, and I'll say this now, we have put together a brand new brochure that we're now waiting to hear back from City Council on whether we can use the trust funds to sort of launch our outreach, including 10,000 new brochures, mailings to the nonprofits, an ad campaign, and Fritz and I have had early conversations. We're really excited about planning, perhaps in the summer, a press conference open house for the new television center. He just got in the mail today the photos, and 2 foot by 3 foot, huge, beautiful, glossy photos that our staff member Flint Woods took of either equipment or people using the equipment of public access. We will be having those on the walls, and those are actually also the same photos in our new brochure. So we're going to have a consistency of images, and we're really excited to be launching all of that. And on the your media side, just kind of excited about this. We met with the city administrator and the mayor and communications director of Springdale, and we've put a proposal in this week to produce some of their television programs for their newly established government channel in the wake of the closing of Jones TV. So we're hoping that that comes through as another contract for us. But I'll wait for the rest of the highlights in my year-end report.
Miss Shelley, may I?
Go ahead, yes.
There's a great association of nonprofits here in Northwest Arkansas, the AFP chapter, the Association of Fundraising Professionals.
Right.
Really, really robust groups, everything from, United Way, Boys and Girls Club, to, women's shelters, to the University of Arkansas. And they have a great meeting. Every quarter, typically there's a robust attendance, and there's various subcommittees that move. I participate in this group. I would love to connect you with the leadership, because it may be a great thing in this coming year, once the brochures and everything are printed, for you to come, because there's always looking for speakers, because speaker panels are tough to find, but especially something to help some of these folks think in ways that they may have never thought before, with a resource here in their own backyard. So I'd love to connect you with that.
I love to give a speech, and I love things that are robust. And it does sound like a great fit for public access. One of the things in the letter that will be going out is this new opportunity, since we expanded the contract, to do fundraisers on the air, just as the Lions Club did. So I think it'd be a great place to promote that, since it's the Association of Fundraising Professionals.
Absolutely.
I'll I'll look for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anything else? Not, we'll move on to old business. Consideration of changes to Articles 6 and 7 of the administrative rules. Recognize Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I actually have a copy of it in your packet this time. And the sort of gray area shows what's been changed. Those that are underlined would be removed, and those in italics would be substituted. I think all of the changes until the very end can be categorized as replacing citizen with resident, because we have many residents in Fayetteville who are not citizens, and a lot of those with the university. So it would be Fayetteville residents. And specifying throughout that it is Fayetteville residents rather than residents from Utah or Huntsville, which I hail. That our funding and our duty is to Fayetteville residents. Now, the final thing on there on the last page would strike about the process for appealing the action of the board. Since we are an advisory board to the city council, there's no really appeal from our advice. So that might give the impression that there's a right of appeal when there's, I mean, they can always go to the city council if they don't like what our advice is, but there's no appeal process from our advice. So it would take that out and put it in to make it grammatically correct. And those are I believe that covers all the changes. Change from individuals to residents and from inserted Fayetteville residents.
The subsection B under Article 6 was addressed in the last meeting, right?
That's correct.
Because we changed it to the chair is going to set the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So with that exception.
Are there any motions with respect to Mr. Smith's?
I would move its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
On motion by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Shepherd. Is that right? Okay. Board discussion. Or staff discussion. Does the staff have a stance?
A stance? We support the changes. I think it makes it more clear. I think it makes it more specific, and it also gives the staff good direction in how to support this board in dealing with these, whether it's a complaint or some type of feedback that needs to be communicated to the board in this venue. So we do support that.
Any other discussion? Not move to a vote. All those in favor of the changes proposed by Mr. Smith, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. The ayes have it. The changes will be adopted.
I will adopt those changes, incorporate them, and distribute those to all the members of the board along with the other material that's being revised.
Move on to new business. First is the 2011 year-end report from the public access operator, Ms. Shelley.
On the very next page, you'll see the beginning of the report, otherwise known as far more information than you can probably digest in a short amount of time. But I will give you some of the highlights. When we were looking back at this year, we really, if we could sum it up in 3 words, it would easily be summed up as transition, service, and education. The first page just kind of gives an overview of those. When we talk about transition, we have successfully branded both Fayetteville Public Access Television and Your Media. Very fewer and fewer times we are hearing that whole thing called CAT, and we are really pleased with that and proud of that new branding. In partnership with the city staff, we've really transformed the actual physical space in which we work and in which producers make their shows. We're very pleased with that. And I would say, last but certainly not least, we've transformed the working relationship between the city staff and the public access staff, and that has been really great for us. It's very positive and productive and collaborative, and I think that this report shows a lot of the benefits from that. With regard to service, again, we have shifted the whole paradigm in which we see the city not as an us against them, but you, the city, are our largest client, and we are here to serve you. And that's certainly been the second only to serving the users of public access, which is when you look at the contract, the services that public access provide have also changed. It's been a huge switch to an educational service and classes and really getting people engaged, and we have met and exceeded those service requirements. And then, of course, serving our users. We really have a space that is professional, in which everyone, which has always been the intent. The public access is a place where everyone should feel welcome and able to do what they want to do, and we feel like we've accomplished that. Of course, education, we hired a director of education who has great credentials and has worked his directors of education body off. It's so hard for me to not have a potty mouth. You have no idea. Anyway, in the last quarter, we really successfully started our outreach, our education of the public with regard to public access television. We're really excited to continue that in 2012. And then we had those educational requirements of the number of candidate producers, and we exceeded those. So those really kind of sums up all our accomplishments in those 3 words. But let's look at some of the specifics. And I have lots of charts and fabulous information for you. So if you want to go to some comparisons between 2011 and 2010, that first chart there says the total class offerings in 2011 versus 2010.
That's worth clapping.
And when you look at the average number of classes per month, 24 versus 4. And then total class participants, we were really sad that we couldn't come up with good data from last year. We looked and we could find the names of people that attended classes, but none of us, and Flint was fully on board that entire year. That didn't match our memory. It just didn't compute. We don't believe that data is reliable, so that's not in there. And then let's go to producer comparisons. Now, candidate producers, if you look at the equivalent, 58 to 14, and that was certainly the focus of our work. But I want to dissect the certified producers. It looks like we were blown out of the water in certified producers in 2010. But if you really dissect that, if you take away the 8 certified producers who are a product of our December 2010 APT crunch, for those of you who are around back in those days, we were starting the month of December 2010 with having not reached our goal of 20 certified producers. And we launched then our APT class in an effort to both check out that kind of class as a strategy for the next year, and also in a really CYA kind of move to try to get in more producers. So if you take those out, because that certainly wasn't part of how business had been done in the past, there were really only a comparable number of 6 certified producers in 2010 versus how we do it this year and the number of people that were both trained this year, took their classes, and then produced their first show. Does that make sense? So again, we did great in comparison to 2010. And the number of new outside producers did reduce somewhat, but again, our efforts were really focused on those candidate producers this year. If you look at programming comparisons, pretty even actually with last year. I'm proud that we reduced the number of imported programs and increased the number of local programs, and we hope to see that trend continue. And if you look at the number of total programs, we were down somewhat, but again, this was a year of transition, and I think those numbers look pretty good, all things considered. Any questions about any of that? Well, let's just,
You're conducting a survey, do you have?
it's in here?
Oh,
Yes, sir.
oh.
All right. Then, with regard to the next page, the number of classes and workshops participants by ward, and if I could interject, I just sent Tuesday to the City Council the highlights of this report so that they have all this information, just not all the details. For instance, they just have the totals with regards to the ward participation.
I'll include it in our annual report.
Yes,
We'll have the whole deal.
excellent. Number of class and workshop participants by ward, you can see that it was pretty even, but Ward 2 killed it, and so did Ward 4. But we had a total of 194 class and workshop participants in this year, and then there's the breakdown for each quarter.
That's great.
Yeah, and we already noted we had the 58 new candidate producers, but this is how they broke down. And this was the most exciting thing to me, because that was really our main focus for this year by our contract, and that was almost evenly divided among all 4 wards. So that shows us that our main focus was achieved, but achieved across the city equally. So I'm very excited about that news.
Clap for
Yay.
that too.
And it was great to be able to report to every city council member that their ward really had participation.
It's great.
Yeah. Let's see, if we look at the new program requesters, we had 314, and this is where you really see the difference again in Ward 2 and Ward 4 producing or requesting the most programming. And as we move forward, we're hoping to see that even out even more, but the good news is there wasn't a single ward that didn't have a significant number of people requesting programming to be telecast. And I did what's really not very good math, and I know it's stretching the truth to some degree, but I added all these numbers together because that would really be the 314, 58, and 194 would be the number of things, and if you got rid of all the other stuff we do, like scheduling the programming and staffing and doing all the outreach, I just talked about the number of people from Fayetteville that are using that facility. It came out to us spending about $124 a person. Out of the $93,000 came out to $124 a person. So when you add all this stuff in there as well, I think the city's getting a pretty good bargain. That's me and my very generous math, trying to make it all work. All right, let's look at training numbers down at the bottom. This is something you haven't had before. We wanted to, Fritz, and I think by our contract as well, to see how well did people do on their test scores after they took the classes. So you'll see a chart there for the tests that were given after each class. And the average test score was 93.96 for all of our candidate producers. And the lowest was 75, and that's in basic editing, which is clearly one of the hardest things to capture. One of the things we've seen in this as we move forward is that we're going to really push to let new candidate producers know, especially after taking classes, that we're always there to help them once they get their candidate producer status. So go to the next page. Number of trainings offered by class title. You kind of get a sense of what we have done, and the number of participants by class title. The interesting thing that we noted, and the change that's big for 2012, accelerated producer training started off great. We launched it in December, as I mentioned earlier. But as the year went on, people didn't participate in it hardly at all anymore. So we're taking that and production planning and the Final Cut Pro refresher off of our menu for classes in 2012. We're really just going to focus on the basic core classes and offer those on an as-needed basis throughout the year. But that really allows us to give more opportunities for Fayetteville residents to take those basic core classes that 2011 really showed us they were interested in taking. So that'll be a change that came out of this. And I gave kudos to the City Council in my report to them that their vote in early 2011 to grandfather in producers from outside of Fayetteville has really paid off, because 13 of those 18 actually stayed as active certified producers through 2011. And this shows you the towns from which those people are, where those people live. And we're really excited that they remain very active. All right. There's a whole bunch more really exciting stuff parenthetically, but you are in the report. But let's jump to what you had asked about, was the candidate producers who have not become certified. We wondered why. Candidate producers became candidate producers, but then didn't turn in a show. It would not be worth it to ask fourth quarter producers because they wouldn't have had time. So we looked at the candidate producers from the first 3 quarters. And it ends up that we had a ratio of about 1 certified producer for every 3.5 candidate producers. And we wondered why. So we did a survey. And of the respondents to that survey, here's what we found out, which is really great information. Our first question, this is on page 7. Since completing the training to become a candidate producer, how likely are you to produce a show for telecast at Fayetteville Public Access Television? 87.5% either extremely or somewhat likely. 12.5% not very likely at all. None reported not being likely. Number 2, choose the answer that best describes the reason you have not yet produced a show. The majority obviously were too busy. 1 reported that they were excited to do a show and would be starting soon. 1 reported that they were still deciding what topic they wanted to choose. And of those who chose to actually write in an answer, 1 was waiting for some production help. And 1 said the amount of training and hands-on experience wasn't enough for me to feel competent enough to produce. That's the person we really want to target in 2012. Because we want everyone to know that just taking the classes is at the end. That's just the beginning, that we're going to be there to help them and make sure that they can turn what they learned into successful productions. How useful were the video production training sessions at Fayetteville Public Access Television? Overwhelmingly, they said they were extremely or very useful. And 12.5% found the trainings moderately useful, which if you look at the data, that was the same person that said the amount of training hands-on experience wasn't enough. So we want to really look at that person. How competent was the teaching staff? Extremely or very competent was the overwhelming response. How satisfied were you with the training experience? 85.7% said they were extremely satisfied with their training experience. And then we had not one way or the other really. But I thought this was a great overall indicator of how we've done and why people aren't taking that next step to become a certified producer. And the outcome we get from this is that at the end of the 2nd quarter of this year, we'll be sending the survey to the people from the 4th quarter of 2011. So we're going to do this throughout the year instead of waiting till the end of the year, so we can get good feedback and know what we can do better. Any questions about any of that? All right, if you go to the next page, you've got the number of new trainees and producers. Again, the outside producers we really want to focus on in 2012. And I think an average of 9 new trainees per month is pretty good. We'd love to see that increase. And then there is a list of the fabulous candidate producers for 2011 and the wards in which they live. The production activity, of course, was really highlighted by the December Lions Club telethon, which went off without a hitch. And I spent way too much money. It's easy to do. And if you look at short takes participation, which is the next production activity, it also was pretty utilized by every ward, though there was far more utilization by Ward 1, and not as many numbers as we would like. We're kind of looking at 2 things with that. One is we're recreating the short takes intro. We're going to do hopefully a better job this year promoting it as one of the offerings of Fayetteville Public Access Television. And 2, in some of the discussions we've had, we wonder if this is not the largest casualty of this social media sort of, what's the word, Facebook and all that, social media. Social media. It used to be the electronic soapbox. It was really one of the fewest and most unique outlets in which people could just speak their truth. But you look at Facebook, you look at Twitter, I mean, you can speak your truth about what you're doing instantly. And we're wondering if short takes isn't waning somewhat because of that phenomenon. And we're going to watch that a little bit more closely this year. You look at equipment usage, this is the first year we've even tracked equipment usage. And it'll be great to use when we look at next year. And again, I didn't even add these numbers into that dollar figure earlier, so now we're probably down to $20 a person. Great investment. Feedback and complaints, as you know, we haven't had any for the last 2 quarters, and I've even managed to create a chart out of that, on what the complaints were regarding, and all of these were happily resolved. That's on page 10. And then we get to programming. The big story of 2011 really was that we have finally found a way to guarantee that the programming data we give you is accurate and true, reliable, and these are the program reports based on that. I'd say we did a pretty good job. We had 720 new programs and only 477 repeat programs. And of those new programs, if you add local, outside, and inside together, that is far more, or a few more than the imported programs. So we really hope to see the local programs increasing in 2012 as we bring in more new producers. And then I talked a little bit about our outreach plan for 2012, which I already mentioned earlier. And basically we respectfully say mission accomplished. We're so glad to be your service provider and look forward to another year of good work at 101 West Rock Street. Any questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
And you don't have to answer today, but
Okay.
I would like you to give some thought to this. One of our responsibilities is to promote the use and awareness of public television. What can we, as board members, do
Well,
to do a better job with that?
I've already seen great examples since our last meeting. Like I know you were giving away free gift certificates for classes at public access television on Facebook. I thought that was very clever. I love your forward thinking about once the brochures are done to have me speak at a event that you're already part of, to a group that you're already part of. With your circles of influence in the meetings that you have, if they do have guest speakers, get us on the roster. That to me is the best, and let us get the brochures done. Hopefully we won't have any problem with the trust fund moving forward in that way, and start launching some of this campaign. And then any way you can see within your circles of getting the word out. We certainly have our board members doing the same thing, posting it on their Molly, who works in the business school, making sure that everyone there on her list knows about it. And that's the best way. Word of mouth has always been a great resource for public access. So,
with all the divisiveness in the past, how's everything working internally for y'all?
it is awesome. I mean, I really can't think of a better word. There have been no internal conflicts. It feels, it's a place I really love to go to work. I think everyone does, and it feels, when you go in there, like we're all working together. I know Fritz has done a great job in talking to his staff at staff meetings about we're all in this together. You may work for the government channel, we may work for public access, but we're here to serve Fayetteville. And I feel like that's the energy and the approach that we've been taking, and will continue to do so.
You've done a magnificent job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Quick question. What is the difference between, on page 2, the total class participants?
Oh, I'm glad. I meant to articulate that. Thank you. All right. I think I'm thinking of the same thing you are. The difference between total, say that again?
Page 2.
Oh, total class participants. And
yeah, and page 3, where it's broken down by ward. I was just
Okay.
wondering where the others came from.
oh, the others, if you will look in there, I should have had the little asterisk. Those were grandfathered in folks. And we also had, in the total class participants, and we also had, I believe, 2 people from Washington County who could pay to take the classes.
Okay.
So that's the difference there. But I also want to point out, there were actually 311 individual classes, because we count studio and APT as one class offering, but it's actually more than one class each. It was 2 classes each. So we exceeded the obligated 304 classes in our contract and actually offered 311 different classes, though the class offerings were 276.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move to the year-end report from the television center manager, Mr. Peace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get into my year-end in review, I'd like to make a couple of comments regarding the public access. I can't describe the difference between what I encountered in 2009 when I took this position and the experience that I've had in the last 12, 14 months working with Ms. Shelley and her staff and the board of your media. It's been night and day. I believe Alderman Bobby Farrell said it very succinctly when the public access television contract for services was up for a vote in the city council in the fall of last year, when he said it's been a godsend. We've been able to move forward because of the work that they do. Her staff's always looking for ways to serve their customers, which are our residents, better, which is it makes my job easier. They make my job easier. The data that they're working on in terms of creating the reports, she said several times in different meetings here that we've finally found a way to get accurate data. So we have numbers that we can look at, and we can use those to start looking at how can we serve our customers better. And to that end, I wanted to tell you that going forward in 2012, the Director of Communications, Lindsley Smith, and Shelley and myself, members of her board, and we're going to also be bringing some of this to you as this goes forward, we're having a series of meetings throughout the year to continue to look at where do we need to focus this. The city of Fayetteville makes a significant investment in terms of financial investment in this service for the citizens, for the residents of Fayetteville, and we always want to make sure that that's being done wisely. So we're having a series of meetings to ensure that as we go forward, we don't stagnate, that we don't say, well, this has worked really good, so we're just going to keep going this way, but always soliciting feedback from the participants, always soliciting input from people like the members of the Telecom board and the board of your media and residents, so we can continue to support this as a very viable and dynamic service that we offer the citizens of Fayetteville. So as we go forward through this year, be looking for us to be giving you reports regarding some of the output of those meetings and asking for your input as well. But again, I would just like to say to the board, the staff of your media, Ms. Shelley specifically for 2011, job very well done. Thank you very much. I don't have a lot of charts and
Come on, Fritz.
I actually don't have a lot of charts and numbers and things. It's interesting to when you look at that there are two very different operations that happen within the television center. And as you're aware, my duties also include the operation and managing and the operation of the facility itself. So my report is much more of a narrative of where we were, what we've done, and where we're going. And for your benefit and also for the benefit of the public who's going to watch this, I like to present this. The mission of the City of Fayetteville Television Center is to be a best-in-class municipal television production and telecast facility, provide an industry current teaching facility for the residents of Fayetteville, and to provide a place where Fayetteville residents may tell and share their stories through the medium of video and television. As we look back on this past year, we have the opportunity to recognize the endeavors and activities that have resulted in significant accomplishments at the City of Fayetteville Television Center. Now, this is not the story of the Fayetteville Government Channel alone. It is the story of the entire entity that we call the Television Center. For it's not just the efforts of the city staff or the sole accomplishments of the staff of the public access contractor that make the City of Fayetteville Television Center what it is. It is the concerted efforts of the producers, the staff, and the administration all working together that has allowed us to be here today, entering the third decade of providing clear, accessible government information, educational opportunities, and free, unfettered access for the public through the operation of Fayetteville Public Access Television, the Government Channel, and the City of Fayetteville Television Center. As you just heard, public access contractor Your Media has described their activities for 2011, and again, I would want to say job well done. I would like to now focus on the activity of the city staff in its efforts to maintain and improve television center operations, communication, information, and government channel programming. Now, as we said last year, this is certainly not a comprehensive listing of all the things we've done to serve our residents and administration in 2011. As in years past, we produce and telecast an average of 30 meetings of city boards, commissions, and committees each month. We provide all the technical, engineering, and facility support for the entire operation of the television center. We support the efforts of our public access services provider, Your Media, and we are staff support for you, the Telecommunications Board, and provide video communication and presentation consulting services for every department in the city administration. The biggest accomplishment for 2011 was by far the complete remaking of public access television in Fayetteville. In 2010, the city redefined public access television by insisting on free, unfettered access to not only the public access channel itself, but the educational and production opportunities that were provided. A renewed commitment was made to actively support public access television and its entire operation. Through the request for proposal process and the subsequent services contract, the city redefined its position as the provider of public access television in Fayetteville. It then contracted with Your Media, a nonprofit media access organization, to provide the educational, production support, programming, and outreach services for the Fayetteville Public Access Television. And in January of 2011, what was CAT was no more. Working closely together, the city and Your Media accomplished several key goals in 2011. The city took a much more visible and active role in the management of Public Access Channel. The overall operation was rebranded and renamed as Fayetteville Public Access Television. The channel itself was rebranded and renamed Public Access Television, and we do make a particular distinction between the operation of the educational services and programming services and the actual channel itself that's on the cable system. The facility was renamed City of Fayetteville Television Center. All services are now offered free of charge to Fayetteville City residents. Changes in the contract performance requirements resulted in a significant increase in the number of trained active producers, the level of communication with the public regarding public access services, and the types and numbers of training opportunities offered. Your Media created an organizational entity separate from the city and the public access channel, which was a very significant accomplishment on their part. For 2011, the city made significant changes in the public access services contract, and these also moved into the contract for this year, 2012. The commitment Your Media made to the city and vice versa established new ways of approaching customer service, training, and execution. The requirement for significant improvements in all aspects of public access television operation have resulted in increased utilization of the facility, increased diversity in programming, increased class participation, and enhanced service to the residents of Fayetteville, as we've just heard from Ms. Shelley's report. Now I'd like to take the opportunity to highlight some key accomplishments in the areas of service, operations, programming, and management for both the Fayetteville Government Channel and the City of Fayetteville Television Center. In terms of service, the staff at the Television Center provides television, video, and media production services to both internal and external customers. We assist our internal customers in communicating with other city divisions, staff, and the public. We assist our external customers by providing them with clear, unbiased information and timely coverage of city meetings. In 2011, our accomplishments in service included improving the technical and programming support for the city's digital signage installations. We tested and installed a new digital signage technology that will prove to be much more cost-effective for future installations. We provided meeting support services for meetings such as the Mayor's Town Hall meetings, press conferences, and presentations. We provided meeting support equipment to various users in the city administration for their individual events and their meetings. We provided presentation technology and media consulting for internal customers, things such as working with people to enhance and optimize their PowerPoint presentations. We assist Your Media in improving and increasing their external communications and outreach efforts. We helped establish a documented complaint and feedback procedure for the Telecommunications Board. We established program schedules on accessfayetteville.org that are updated live, so they're always current when you go to that program schedule. It is what if we make a one little change in the program schedule at 7 o'clock or at 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, it immediately goes to that schedule on the web, so that's always current. We are assisting in the development and adoption of an agreement between the city and Fayetteville Public Schools for the operation of the Fayetteville Education Channel. We initiated the initiation and coordination of a project in conjunction with the Office of the City Clerk to improve communication through the public through better access to legislative information, and you'll be getting more information about that as 2012 goes forward and that project progresses. And implementing expanded selection of video on demand programming. And we provide on-demand access now to all city meetings. We accomplished that in 2011, and not just a few of them. They're all available on our video on demand service. Some of our accomplishments in programming and production include implementing a regular programming schedule on the government channel. People now know that city council meetings are at 6 p.m. on Tuesday night. We have garnered 3 awards for programming from the Old State House Museum for our historical documentary series, the Fayetteville History Minute. Our public service announcements promoting awareness and information regarding the new business registry program helped improve participation in that program for the city. Providing message board information for the government channel to be telecast on Fayetteville Public Access Television, and that provides a broader information for a broader audience for that information. So if somebody doesn't watch the government channel, they can still get the information about things like road closures and construction projects and meeting announcements and activities at the Fayetteville Public Library. And we produce spots to assist the Fayetteville Animal Shelter in promoting its special programs. You'll have to forgive me, I have still suffering somewhat from a cold. At the City of Fayetteville Television Center, we're constantly making improvements in our telecasting and production technology. Our goal remains to provide a technologically current teaching and production facility for use by both the public and city staff. Our accomplishments this year include the renovation of the studio control systems, including a redesign of the layout of the control consoles, addition of the new audio mixing console, and better recording options. Updating the operational tracking database, completely inventorying and barcoding public access equipment. We replaced 2 aging field production cameras, and we're establishing a tapeless production workflow for the government channel. Installing a separate telecast controller for the public access channel, providing redundancy, fault tolerance, and disaster recovery capability for both channels. Upgrading office computer systems to allow more efficiency and better availability. Upgrading studio lighting, replacing instruments that were over 20 years old. Some of them still have stickers on them that say Fayetteville Open Channel. Making all non-meeting programming available on the city's YouTube channel. Completing the transfer of the government channel program archive from videotape to DVD. As of the end of 2011, that process is complete, and well over 2,500 programs in the government channel archive were transferred from videotape to DVD. And I want to specifically and individually recognize Fru Gallagher for her efforts and her work in that project, which would not have been able to be accomplished in the timely manner in which it was without her work. The management of the City of Fayetteville Television Center accomplished several key initiatives that we had in 2011, including enhancing service, programming, and production capacity with no increase in the operational budget. Reorganizing the division, creating an organizational structure that allows for future growth, more accurate and representative position descriptions, and regrading positions for more appropriate compensation. Assisting public access staff in implementing a regular program schedule and more defined series programming policy for the public access channel. Assisting public access staff in utilizing more extensive data sources, allowing them to provide more accurate and comprehensive reports. Consulting with the Fayetteville Public Library on conducting a short film competition, providing design consulting on the Community Link project, consulting with the Office of the City Clerk on Granicus utilization issues, assisting in the creation of a complaint feedback procedure for the Telecommunications Board, coordinating and managing a significant renovation of the Television Center facility. In addition to the aforementioned accomplishments, there were several enhancements and improvements made to the Television Center itself. The first and most visible is the front of the building. We're very proud that the signage has been changed to be more consistent with other city facilities in the area. It's also been updated to display the redesigned logos for both the government channel and the public access channel. There were lots of unused and unsightly antennas and other things that were mounted on the front of the building sticking up, and we weren't using those anymore, and we took all those off and all the cables that were looping back and forth across the front. Most of the interior has been repainted with damaged and worn ceiling tiles replaced, trim repaired, and floor re-waxed. An exclusive classroom space was established. A new break area with running water was created, providing better service to our staff and visitors. A secure storage area was built for public access field equipment. All of these things we accomplished while continuing to perform our core services, which include providing coverage for 30 government meetings a month on average, producing over 200 public service programs, creating almost 2,000 new bulletin board messages, and assisting this board in executing its duties throughout the year. In 2012, our major plans include replacing our aging studio cameras, which are well beyond their service life. Move further toward the goal of a completely tapeless production workflow for the entire operation. Establishing remote meeting recording capabilities that will help maximize efficiency and our staff resources. Expand the city's digital signage infrastructure to provide more public points of contact. Revise the television center's 5-year plan for services and capital expenditures. And provide consulting and management for the implementation of a completely new legislative management system designed to provide greater efficiency and public access to the legislative process of the city. Why do we do all this? We do all this because the mission of the Fayetteville Government Channel is to make Fayetteville government more accessible and understandable to the citizens of Fayetteville, to inform residents on city government, government services, and community life, and to facilitate the exchange of public information. We're very proud, the staff of the City of Fayetteville Television Center and the Government Channel are very proud to be a part of the city's public service commitment and communications efforts, and an essential part of this administration's efforts to make Fayetteville government more accessible, more participatory, and more understandable to its citizens and its residents. And we'll continue to strive to accomplish this mission through 2012 and beyond with your assistance and the assistance of this administration. Thank you very much. Any questions about our accomplishments in the year 2011?
I would just commend you for an outstanding job. I'm particularly impressed with just because of my personal interest, the history minutes, and apparently everybody else is too, because you won those 3 statewide awards. And the year before that, the Tellys. I think there are 2 questions that I have. One is Cox Communication doesn't attend these meetings anymore, so we don't have any dialogue with them as members of Telecom board. I was wondering what your relationship with them is, or how often you talk with them. Is there any information you can share with us about that?
My relationship is it's a very cordial relationship. They're supportive of the things that we've tried to accomplish. It's not contentious whatsoever. They do have some very specific ideas of what information that they will share. I've asked in the past for viewership information regarding things like, can you tell us how many viewers are watching the public access channel, the government channel, or the education channel? I believe they have that data, that they won't share it with us. They say that it is proprietary business information. They won't share with us the number of people that have digital converter boxes that even have the capability of receiving the government channel or the public access channel. I'm disappointed in that. I understand to a certain extent their position in terms of business information. My perspective is I'm not sure why that has to be held so close to the vest. I've asked for it, they won't provide it, but that has not created a contentious relationship. They were very supportive and helpful when I was working on the project for getting our program schedule on the guide. They're very supportive of that. But to put it in a nutshell, our relationship, like I said, is cordial. We work well. They're always very responsive in terms of complaints. If somebody has an issue, I contact a representative there, and they're very, very quick to respond, very quick to try to do what they can to resolve it. I've never had any issues with that whatsoever. So I don't know that they might entertain an invitation from the board to return to the monthly meetings. But as we go forward, I don't know that we'll get significant information from them that's not required in anything that might be included in the franchise agreement.
From the last century.
Yeah. True.
My other question relates to that somewhat. Do you have counters, or is there any way to measure the online use of streaming programs, or who's looking at your YouTube programs, or video on demand and those type of things?
Actually, yes, we can start providing you with information regarding the access of the video on demand for the government channel. I'll have to talk to Julie McQuaid, who is the person who coordinates the YouTube channel. She's the coordinator of all the social media here in the city. And while we provide the programming, we provide a lot of the programming for it, we don't actually manage the channel management itself. She does that. I'll ask her if she can provide, although you can go on the channel.
Most of those have counters.
Yeah, you can go on a YouTube channel and see how many people have watched those, but the Granicus information, we can start providing reports.
Yeah, I mean, how many people watch city council meetings online? Do you have any idea?
Off the top of my head, I can't give you that information, but I'll get it as best as I can.
Anyway, good job.
Thank you.
Excellent. All good down there at the television center.
Seems like a happy place to be. It just seems.
It is. It's a happy place. We like coming to, people like coming to work. People like coming in there. And the thing that I've got to say more than anything is that we've gone to a place where, in 2009, I had people that when they found out, oh, this was my job. They were very honest with me. I've had people that were very honest with me and tell me that they had gone into that facility and didn't feel comfortable. They did not feel comfortable going into that facility. Various reasons, but it wasn't open and welcoming and such. We've done some things that have been really big. We've done some things that have been really small. In the scheme of things, we don't have that big desk in the lobby anymore that looks like some kind of fortress for someone to sit behind. We took that out and we put a nice glass and chrome desk in there. It's very much more open and friendly and looks a little more high tech. And people like coming there now, and they like being there, which is a big change from 2.5, 3 years ago. So yeah, it's a good place to be, and we're just always looking. The other thing is that we're always looking for ways to make it better, and we're always listening. That's the one thing that I can say about my staff and the staff of your media is they're always open. We're always open for input and suggestions.
Would you be able to, list them here for us right now, and then we can maybe have a little picture or something online where it's maybe not getting yet. Even that station of this one, what hours and days can people walk into the building? That's changed, I know, and you announced it, and it's in various places, but
the 2012 Fayetteville Public Access Television hours of operation are 9 to 9 on Mondays, 9 to 1 on Tuesdays. We're closed on Wednesdays. 9 to 9 on Thursdays. 9 to 5 on Fridays, and 9 to 1 on Saturdays. Closed on Sundays. And that was based on the really great in-depth study that Flint did last year of the actual usage of the building and when most users were there. And we wanted to have a consistent opening time, which is an hour earlier than before. So that change, along with the focus on the core classes, there's actually more opportunity this year, even though the hours are a bit fewer. The classes are offered at different times throughout the week and hopefully more accessible to more users. So.
And relate that to how access to government channel personnel is. How are they? Is there somebody in there to answer the phone for government channel if they're not in the building? Or?
Yes, while the public access to the building is not there when the public access operator is not open, there's almost always someone to answer the phone. And again, we're very short-staffed, so there's the possibility that someone may call 444-3434, which is the main line for the government channel, and not get an answer. But we do have voicemail to pick that up, and we also have several different ways that we publish to contact anyone. And, you know, if there's a situation where somebody might need to have access to something that the government channel staff can provide on a time when the facility is not open to the public, there's always, we do that. I mean, you call and, hey, we need to come down and pick this up or talk to you about something, and we are there and open the door. We don't have the staff capability and the capacity to have someone in the lobby all the time to be able to provide an open door all the time, and we also don't have the staff capacity to support the public access operation when they're not there. So we don't open to the public when the public access staff is not there to serve the public. The building's not open to the public.
Any other questions? All right, well, that ends new business. Anything else from staff for public access? Okay. Any committee reports? I don't think anybody's met since the last meeting. Mr. Smith?
I'm trying to figure out where this may be my last chance to speak. There's one point I'd like to raise before we get to the adjourn.
Sure.
And we've still got a year to work on this, but I anticipate the major state legislative issue that we're could face will be a move by the cable companies to go to statewide franchising rather than city franchises. And I think we should give some attention to that over the next few months and prepare a position. My inclination is to be prepared to recommend to the city that we oppose it, and that they communicate that to our legislative delegation before the next session. But I would like to investigate that and see what's going on in other places in the arguments, and if the municipal league has a position that supports the cities rather than and if we can avoid that confrontation at all, and if we have to have one, then we'll at least have good data on why to take that position. And like I said, it's a year away before the legislature will meet on that anyway. There are interim committees that may come up. So sometime in the future, we might want to have a committee start working on that.
Okay. Agree with that. And before we get to the adjournment, I would ask unanimous consent to be allowed to prepare our annual report to forward to the city council. And if there is no objection, I'll do that. Is there any other business? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
On motion by Mr. Shepherd, and I'll take a second by Mr. Spencer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. This meeting's adjourned.